Well, war is over. Virginia Tech has officially signed Penn State transfer quarterback Ethan Grunkmeyer as we welcome you back into another edition of Kolby's Corner here, coming to you live from the fine city of Norfolk, Virginia on Wednesday, January 14th, year of our Lord 2026. Appreciate everyone jumping in here. We've got a ton to get to. Had a crazy out of the blue Outer Banks trip, but we still made it back in time to talk Grunkemeyer, portal updates, remaining targets. The JMU game was canceled. You would have known that if you've been watching here, so make sure to subscribe. Finally got the spring game date. We'll get into that, some personnel details, and of course, wrap it all up with some questions and answers. But first on the docket, as always, need to just give such a genuine, I can't even put into words how thankful and grateful I am for everyone who's tuned in every night this week. We're going to live again tomorrow night at 7:30. We're going to have more interviews up on the channel with different players and such all throughout the fall, winter, spring. So I just thank you so much for the support. It's really meant the world. Sort of drinking from a fire hose with all the stuff going on and, trying to figure it all out. But thank you for everyone who's been sticking it out, and the feedback has meant a ton. So thank you. If you're here, make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. It helps me out a ton. Go check out vtscoop.com, running the 50% off promo over there for all the latest intel on all of college football, because that's what we like to talk about around here. So we'll have some interviews coming. We talked to Jeff Exnor. That's on the channel if you want to check that out. And we go live a couple nights a week, and follow on the socials right there at Kolby_Crawford for even more updates. But without further ado, thanks for the support. I see a ton of questions in the live chat. We're going to have a busy night. It's been a busy day, and we're back for it. So, but first off, Virginia Tech got their guy officially signed, quarterback Ethan Grunkmeyer. And this is a very, very long saga that played out, a lot like the James Franklin saga in this show, I feel like. Last night over on vtscoop.com, if you're a subscriber, I dropped a VIP update on where Virginia Tech stood with Ethan Grunkmeyer, and it reaffirmed everything I'd said on this show, that there was no hindrance or worrying or wavering between Ethan Grunkmeyer and the side of Virginia Tech. I know as different teams like Miami and other teams at LSU were still locking down different quarterbacks, there was a feeling that there was maybe some foul play or someone getting involved. That was never really the case. It was some redlining of contracts with an agent, and sounds like he maybe had even put this specific situation on the back burner, and what sounds like he was advised to not officially or announce his commitment until he was signed. So today, signed, got in the boat, and they got a quarterback in the class. So last night, like I said, it was really to try and reassure everyone that Bryce Baker has been committed to Virginia Tech, and as of this morning, was not officially signed to Virginia Tech. So it was a very similar scenario. I know it dragged out, and until the ink is dry and until you're enrolled, that there's going to be some uncomfortability. But I tried to put a lot of that to bed last night, entering crystal ball with a confidence level of 10. And today, Ethan Grunkmeyer is confirmed to Virginia Tech, has signed, and a massive addition for James Franklin, Danny O'Brien, and bringing in a quarterback they're very familiar with. Personally, I was fortunate enough to go up to the Indiana and Penn State game this year, and looking back, a pretty decent game to go to, especially when you look at what Grunkemeyer was able to do in that game. I mean, Penn State had the lead at the half. They took them all the way down to the wire, 27-24. I think getting lost in that, everyone remembers the drive by Fernando Mendoza to come back, a masterful, probably Heisman-worthy drive at the end. But, I mean, I remember, I put it up on the X if you want to scroll back to November. I should have loaded it here tonight. I mean, Grunkemeyer really kept them in that game. I know he had the interception, 22 of 31, 219 yards, touchdown in the pick. Like I said, not exactly the most mobile on the ground, but was really effective against a really good defense and gave him a shot. I mean, I know there were some questionable timeouts after that drive by Mendoza, probably by Terry Smith. Missed a pretty big throw out in the flat, I think, to Katron Allen and Nick Singleton. That would have set up that Hail Mary attempt a little better. But overall, I mean, kept his poise in Beaver Stadium with the way the season had already gone. I think that's one you point to just because it's pretty well understood what the class of Indiana turned out to be. I know he took his licks against Ohio State the week before, but overall, this is a very, very dynamic passer. Doug Bowman had a really nice tweet earlier highlighting his accuracy statistics. We talked about it on here compared to Virginia Tech quarterbacks of past. Someone that they targeted. I know we talked about Bo Pribula and other quarterbacks. This was one of their guys going into the portal cycle, and they were able to land him. I mean, what an amazing job. So last year, 69.1% completion percentage, which was a record up at Penn State, would be a record at Tech if you were to replicate that. 8 touchdowns, 4 picks. Now, not the most mobile guy, 35 carries for negative 46 yards, obviously accounting for sack yards, but did have the rushing touchdown against Nevada and expecting some of that development. So a highly rated guy and officially in the boat as we've been expecting. So with that, also sticking on the quarterback note, something I want to note, talking about Bryce Baker not officially signed, just a note on that. I maybe even misspoke in a couple episodes back, just talking out loud, and I've seen some other people say that he was maybe pegged as Bill Belichick's guy. In talking to different people closer to the situation, Mac Brown really heavily recruited Bryce Baker and sort of brought him down to Chapel Hill to be the guy. And once you have a staff change and different personalities and ideas get in the room, you bring in Torrey Newkirk and some other guys over him, just kind of muddy the waters a little bit. And I think something to certainly watch is even when they had Drew Aller, how many packages they had for Bo Pribula and different players. This is a system that they're not afraid to have packages for different guys. So I think it's really valuable getting both those quarterbacks in the boat and how that competition will shape up in spring. 2 very young guys. I know Grunkemeyer played a really nice back half of the year, but that's only half a Big Ten schedule. They both still have a lot of development to do. This winter workout, I saw some questions about that. The spring period is going to be really big for development and competition, and also getting in sync with a lot of new guys. You can bring so many Penn State transfers and have comfortability there, but a lot of it's going to be getting acclimated, picking up a new offense, Ty Howell's offense. There's going to be elements that are familiar, but it's going to be really big, and getting both of those quarterbacks, especially Grunkemeyer, was really massive. Never really wavered, though. So just to sort of double down on that, I know there for a while it became the running trend to be what's going on, but never really wavered on that front. So got the crystal ball in there last night and really big pickup. So yeah, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Also this morning, another pickup for Virginia Tech was nickel cornerback Kenny Woolsey Jr. coming from Penn State, a guy who saw, I think, 238 snaps on defense, had 5 solo tackles this year, a pass breakup, had 10 total tackles, saw some spot minutes. So this is someone who could come in and pretty immediately see defensive rotational aspects, someone who I think you could come in and spell Isaiah Brown Murray, someone else like that in the nickel position. I know they were working Knowledge Harrell there last year. It'll be interesting to see their personnel, but I especially in the secondary, I don't think you can not have like enough body. So a good pickup, one we've been discussing on the show that still was sounding good, talking in the agent circle. So to see that one come to fruition this morning at 9 o'clock Eastern was nice. So a couple pickups today, but the highlighter was definitely getting Ethan Grunkmeyer officially signed. I see a ton of questions and comments. We will make sure to get to all those here at the end of the show. Had some news today, so if you have questions, dump them in the live chat. Subscribe to the channel, like the video. We'll get to all those. But yeah, a couple pickups today. Kenny Woolsey Jr. and officially signing Ethan Grunkmeyer from Penn State. So 2 more guys. Parlaying with that, a couple more remaining targets. I know we came on the program a couple nights ago, so they're still probably looking in that 3 to 6 range, and sort of melted into that was Grunkemeyer, Woolsey, 2 of those names to watch. But for some more remaining targets, and this parlays into just an overall portal update, Tyseer Denmark, the wide receiver, was another name we brought up on the program a couple nights ago from a Moatep Institute up there in Philadelphia. A really highly rated guy. When you look at the offers he had coming out, Oregon, Alabama, A&M, Wisconsin, Texas. I mean, a Moatep being the institute that it is up there in Philadelphia was a highly rated 3-star guy from Philly. We talked about him on Monday. And some of my hesitation was, well, first off, I was coming off vacation, hadn't really tapped the contact wells to see what was going on. Knew there was a possibility there. Brian Doan from 24/7 Sports went on and entered the crystal ball today, and to double checking with different sources. It does sound like they will take another wide receiver. And I think part of that is connected with Isaiah Spencer, the former Jackson State transfer wide receiver, deciding to hit the portal. And then by this afternoon, he's already committed to Ole Miss. So the numbers always work out, as we know, but Tyseer Denmark, the wide receiver transfer from Penn State, is another name, a remaining target I would certainly keep an eye on for Virginia Tech. And part of that was part of the situation with Isaiah Spencer hitting the portal and then committing down to Ole Miss. He's originally from Florida, Mississippi, obviously Jackson State, Jackson, Mississippi, getting a little bit closer to home. I think that is honestly a little bit of an underrated loss for Virginia Tech. I think Spencer had quite a bit of upside. He was raw, but he still has seen some college football, and I think that is a pretty big loss for that wide receiver room. I think the talent is really nice overall there, but still some guys who have to put it all together on the field. So you're banking on a little bit of projection over production. But still, I mean, Denmark certainly a name to watch. Another remaining target that we've talked about on here again, Justin Terry, the offensive tackle transfer from Ohio State, spent his freshman year at West Virginia with Matt Moore. Last year hit the portal, was under the tutelage of Tyler Bowen out of Ohio State, has entered the portal, would still expect to heavily monitor that as a situation for Virginia Tech to get involved. Those two are certainly the names that we've been talking about on the show the last couple of days. Still feel pretty good for both those guys in Virginia Tech. Probably close to putting in a crystal ball for both those guys, especially Justin Terry along the offensive line. You know, if we get crazy in the Q&A, might do that while we're here live. Some other names that just semi-following, haven't really put too much behind it. Sam Okinola, the edge from Colorado. Just gauging interest there. Virginia Tech's backfilled quite a bit at the edge position, and we've talked about on here, and I'm proud to go back to multiple episodes before the portal even started, that quarterback and edge rusher were certainly the top two priorities, and you can see that with how Virginia Tech has handled the defensive end position. So are they done at edge? Are they looking for one more that's a potential? And on the offensive line, I think you could see a name pop. One that I'm potentially looking at from Maryland, Alu Ba, I believe that's how you say it, entered the portal. Could be one to watch, but those two are certainly a lot more murky as opposed to Tyseer Denmark and Justin Terry, as we've been talking about on the show. So those are some of the remaining targets coming off the big news of Ethan Grunkmeyer signing with Virginia Tech, Kenny Wosley committing to Virginia Tech, getting both those guys in the boat. So quite a few Penn State guys, as we talked about on the show, that Franklin had guys ready and waiting, and there's maybe even some guys in the portal that might not have a number at Virginia Tech that entered. So both those things. Also, small update, I guess, sticking in the wide receiver room, popped here just relatively recently after we went live, or right before we went live in the wide receiver room. Highland Springs, Richmond, Virginia native Takai Heath has officially confirmed that he will be returning to Virginia Tech, as we expected, as we talked about on the show last night. But the wide receiver room returning a piece there. Another option in the slot. I think Keyshawn Brown will certainly slot into that starting spot in the slot, but another guy who's saw quite a few snaps this year, a couple hundred snaps there at wide receiver, caught a touchdown, I believe, in the Wake Forest game, potentially the Wofford game, saw some time against Georgia Tech, and made some strides. Definitely had issues with some drops there. Drop percentage, I think, was close to 15%, so not ideal. But still, when you said you're in that wide receiver room, you're banking on a little bit of projection over production, a good retention, especially when you lose a guy like Isaiah Spencer. All right, so make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video. That's most of the transfer nuggets. As I said, it's been a little bit of a hectic day. Was running down Highway 12, and we made it back just in time. So we got our a couple words on a piece of paper, and we're going off that as we've tried to work the phone here before the show. So if you have questions, we'll dump into all that, answer them. Have a couple notes on the staff, and it was kind of a busy day for Virginia Tech scheduling, so we'll jump into that before the live chat. Questions, dump them in there, and we'll get to them all tonight. Thank you guys for the support. For Virginia Tech staff, the largest missing piece is still the safety coach position. We have been ear to the ground working, coming out of the coaching conference at the AFCA coaching conference, and there's still, it's kind of anyone's guess at this point. I feel like have been really working to try and find, is it coming from the pro ranks, a coach, and a name that came up that can confirm will not be the coach. Ephraim Banda, the safeties coach for the Cleveland Browns, former Incarnate Ward graduate. I know his name was linked to Virginia Tech. It sounds like he will certainly not be will not be the safeties coach at Virginia Tech. That was a name that popped up. I know there were other names, a Matt Guerrero at Ohio State. I know people had referenced the Indiana safeties coach. I had not heard real tangible smoke on either of those guys. I see someone just top in the chat, Nick Sorensen. Haven't heard real tangible stuff on that front. Obviously his connection to Virginia Tech. still working there, but can confirm Ephraim Banda, the Brown safeties coach, will not be brought into Virginia Tech, as well with another small staff nugget on the support side. I believe his title here was the assistant athletic director of player personnel or something in that regard, a fancy title. The DPP essentially, or the pseudo GM, Trey Nair, came from West Virginia, was the director of player personnel there, took a job as the assistant GM down in Orlando at UCF. So I think he came in filling the role of what Alex Jones is doing. Had a pretty nice cycle, and then a new staff comes in and out. But good to see him land down there in Orlando as the assistant GM role. So they'll have to backfill. There were some guys. Obviously, Franklin brought quite a bit of his staff. There will still be some support staff guys in the recruiting department, scouting department still to be brought in. But that was something certainly to note. If you're just joining us, make sure to subscribe, follow if you're on X, YouTube. The support has been insane. I've got a busy day tomorrow, and I got a radio hit in Atlanta and trying to set up all the back end stuff for this YouTube channel and such, because you guys keep clicking the subscribe button and it keeps making me sign up for different things. So thank you so much because it just helps me out a ton and it means the world. So let's keep it rolling while we can. The feedback is always appreciated. So let me know in the comment section or chat what you guys want to see, and we'll try and bring the best product to you. But yeah, we'll keep it rolling. Get back to school here next week, and it's just going to be more news and insight from the football team, because it's a year-round deal. You see all the reports of the College Sports Commission. It's only becoming more and more year-round, the transfer portal and such. So we'll have all the insight here. So subscribe if you're enjoying the college football coverage. All right, lastly, we'll touch on some scheduling notes, and then we'll hop into the Q&A section. Today it was announced that Virginia Tech will be canceling the JMU game for the 2026 season. This has been something that, if you've been subscribed to Kolby's Corner, probably would not come as a surprise to you. We've been talking about this for quite a while, that the game for JMU in 2026 that was originally scheduled for September 26th, it was the third game of the season, was going to be the game that was going to get axed to fit in that ninth league schedule, or that ninth league game for the schedule. We've been talking about this for quite a while on the program. So it'll start with VMI, ODU, Maryland on the road, and then 9 straight ACC games. And this is something that we'd been anticipating. I know people had talked about trying to move the VMI game, but for a while, that JMU date was certainly circled. Was hearing intel on that. So if you were subscribed, you were in the know. And I know there's been a ton of discourse on X and different platforms today about Virginia Tech. I mean, obviously I had to pay a pretty penny, I think in the figures of $800,000 to get that done, which is, pretty interesting when it gets levied down from the conference commissioner's office or league office that, hey, we're going to have to do a ninth game, so you're going to have to clean this up. But I mean, I feel like the JMU series, it was pushed back a year. It was supposed to be played last year, this year. Someone just reached out and was like, do you see it being rescheduled? I don't anticipate the JMU game to be rescheduled anytime recently or soon. Just with having to have 9 league games and at least one non-con P4 opponent likely moving forward, I don't see a rush to try and get that one back on the schedule. So, I mean, that's kind of what it's going to be. Past that, there's really not much to say on it. It is what it is. You had to take the 9 league games, and for a while, it just looked like that was going to be the game that was going to move. I know there were a lot of people pounding their fists on the table for a large conference opener, but there's a lot of moving parts behind these schedules, and that was the way it was lining up for, months now. I feel like the first time we mentioned this was in October. No, probably closer to November, but still. So to see that officially come to fruition today, not surprising, but a necessary part of it. So that'll be interesting to see non-conference schedule moving forward. You've already seen different programs make moves in, I guess, adjustment of what you've seen the college football playoff committee do and different moves. So how will that affect Virginia Tech, the ACC, and different programs, and how they schedule the non-conference? Does the Black Diamond Trophy return in the future, having that Big 12 game against West Virginia? I know that's been something that's been brought up, and yeah, we'll see. Also, on the scheduling note, the spring game will be Saturday, April 18th. It'll also be family weekend, Hokie High weekend, Run for Remembrance weekend. It'll all be wrapped up into one April 18th. They don't have a time on it yet. Entry will be free, which I think is amazing. I mean, personally, I think having the spring game, the opportunity for different people to come back, across the country, with having that spring transfer portal window, it was such a shame to see what it had done to college football, where programs are canceling the spring game, having alumni, and especially I think for young fans or people who don't always get the opportunity to go to games. When you look at what the price tag for some of these tickets are in this day and age, hey, if you want to go to the national championship this upcoming Monday, I mean, you're shilling out a couple $1,000s. I mean, and college football games aren't cheap. So to have the opportunity to go to your old program, your alma mater, or bring a family, I think it was always a great opportunity for programs across the country to have that opportunity, especially for free, but even a reduced rate of $5 to $10. So hopefully with the spring portal going away, you'll see that, especially for Virginia Tech's use case in this scenario, bringing in a James Franklin. It's going to be an absolute rocket ship of a weekend, and making the tickets free. I think it was their full intention to try and get Lane Stadium close to as packed out as you can. They're going to have a ton of amenities around the weekend. Obviously, the Run for Remembrance always brings back alumni to campus of the tragedy in 2007. And I think it's just another great opportunity. So to bring that back, now personally for the spring game, I'm going to have to work some things out. One of my best friends in the entire world. Congratulations, Joe. You're getting married on that Saturday. And, as soon as that RSVP got sent out in the fall, you just knew that would be the weekend for the spring game. So we'll have a ton of coverage throughout winter workouts and spring, but we'll have to figure something out for the spring game, because I think I'm going to be on the northern neck. So maybe have to go scout some guys up on the northern neck that weekend. But yeah, so that's the spring game. And then also right before, make sure to subscribe if you're just joining us. I'm about to hop into the Q&A section, but I saw some questions about early enrollees. I wanted to touch on that just a little bit before, because I know it gets so lost in this transfer portal process, and probably not even the most interesting thing for actually, as we're just talking, James Franklin tweets out about regarding the spring game, 65,632 seats, 65,632 people in those seats makes a statement. So obviously referencing the spring game and trying to get it sold out, as we just touched on. So subscribe if you're just joining us. We're in lockstep there with me and the head ball coach. But for the early enrollees specifically, I get so lost in the transfer cycle. There's still high school enrollees getting on campus. So some of those names to watch, and we'll get into it. I think I saw some comments about it. The quarterback, Troy Hune, offensive lineman, Tyrell Simpson, offensive lineman, Purgatory Labindis, Ben Azuka on the offensive line, Garrett Witherington, the D lineman, Terry Wiggins, Matthew Lamar, JP Oates from LaSalle, Tyrell Grant down from Nansemond, Will Love, and I think Cam Johnson. I think those are the early enrollees at this point. Let me double check I think we went over this just briefly in the other list, but yeah, I think that pretty much wraps it up. So we'll have questions on that. But yeah, I think that's most of it. Big news of the day, Ethan Grunkmeyer officially signs to Virginia Tech. When that came out, I mean, we were expecting it. I know I'd been saying soon, but genuinely, especially last night with the announcement, was expecting it pretty imminently, and there it went. So I know that put a lot of people's worries and concerns to bed. Massive pickup. It'll be very, very interesting to see the development of both Ethan Grunkmeyer, Bryce Baker through spring, and a ton of different players. There's a ton of storylines to follow this winter, spring, and there's no better place to follow it than here on the YouTube channel. So subscribe, as well as vtscoop.com. So with that, we will hop straight into the live chat for questions. Let's make it pretty lively. I saw some good questions. Got Wayne K saying, finally, Virginia Tech has the quarterback. If you've been following here, yeah, you felt pretty well off that once they got Bryce Baker in the boat, Ethan Grunkmeyer, both those guys, pretty early on in January, that became clearly the plan. I know I'd been beating the drum for Bo Perbula. That shifted relatively quickly. They decided to go with Grunkemeyer, as well with Bryce Baker with the 4 years of eligibility to rebuild and be their quarterback room for the upcoming year. Big Tim, I don't know if you're just joining, but we touched on the safeties coach. Still trying to work the phones, but Ephraim Banda the Brown safeties coach. His name was brought up. I can confirm he will not be the safeties coach. Did this right before the show, but Chad Gilmore here wanted the shout out for Clayton Gilmore's 21st birthday. The Grunk commit. Thank you for hanging out on Kolby's Corner on your 21st birthday. Appreciate the support, man. Patrick Thompson, what position do you foresee Virginia Tech being night and day better in 2026? First instinct is quarterback, obviously, but where else? I would say the quarterback position. I think they've dramatically increased the talent level of the room with both Ethan Grunkmeyer, Bryce Baker, and honestly, maybe just even seeing where Keldon Ryan's come physically after a full year in the program. I think the offensive line is certainly going to have to be in the discussion for that. Virginia Tech's offensive line really struggled down the stretch in the year, just dealing with injuries. I know they've brought in Howland, and you just really need some of those other guys to take a step. Now, I don't think they're done there quite yet, and I think you're going to see that position group shape out through spring as they have battles. But I think you'll see a marked improvement in that position group just with the number of playable bodies coming back. I think you'll see there as well with specifically, I'm not going to say the defensive line, specifically the edge rusher position. I think that left a ton to be desired. And especially coming off a year when you saw what Antoine Powell-Ryland was able to do coming off the edge and what Virginia Tech really left on the table, was not able to get after the quarterback last year and really affect offenses at all in that way. So I think the edge position and offensive line, but specifically probably even edge rusher most, and you're going to have to see a marked improvement on the offensive line or it's going to go off the rails pretty quickly. Ryan Kane, how do you see the wide receiver depth chart shaking out? A lot of wide receivers are in the program now with potentially more coming. Good question. I think I touched on this last night. I believe I said Aiden Green, probably the starting X guy. I mean, you can move him all around. Keyshawn Brown there at the slot. And I think my third guy that I just said right now projecting, I've been super high on him, but I will remain to be super high on him. And I think if you give him a full spring and summer, he'll win the job outright, is Keelan Brody Adams. I saw some people talking earlier. Keelan Brody Adams is officially coming back to Virginia Tech for 2026. We've been saying that on this program for a while now, but I know not everyone made a post for it, but Keelan Adams will be back for 2026. I would say those are the top three guys. With Isaiah Spencer departing, I think Takai Heath is going to have to be up in that mix. Chance Wiggins as well at the wide receiver position is going to be in there. You bring in Jackson from Louisiana Tech. That's one that has experience. That's why you bring him in. Just checking wide receiver now on the roster, as well as the guys they brought in. Does Jeff Exnor, does a Tyseer Denmark work their way in? I think spring's going to be really big for that. Snook Peterkin, how did I forget Snook Peterkin? What he was able to show in the UVA game, I think he showed some nice things. Struggled with some drops there in fall camp. Going to have to add some mass to try and get a larger snap share, obviously spending time with the basketball team. But I think they've really increased the talent level at the wide receiver position. Commanders 27. I bet you're happy Grunk finally signed. I'm a little indifferent. You know, I was gone the whole week. It was pretty funny, actually. So Grunkemeyer, yeah, whatever we'll say. So the way the Grunkemeyer, sometimes announcements come out from different sides of representatives. Sometimes you can be told you're going a different direction, and that can get relayed to reporters. So indirectly, you can get an announcement there. So, obviously, Bo Pribula, it looked like Virginia Tech was going to be working that direction, and maybe they pivoted off, and that was relayed to certain representatives, and then certain representatives maybe relayed to different members of the media about where a certain school was looking to go in that direction. And it was pretty understood on what was going on the back end. And that's how you get some leaks or different announcements. So it'd been pretty clearly obvious for quite a ways on the way they were working. I know there was, especially obviously probably only amongst the fans, the unrest about just the delay and when you see what LSU and Miami and all these teams, Oregon, the Dylan Raiola situation, Damon Williams at Washington trying to get out of signed contracts, but it never really felt like there was any wavering covering it. And it was just funny because I departed right after that news and I came back and Grunk still hasn't signed. So the inbox was just, and still to this day, even after he signed, was still getting messages about people being concerned about Ethan Grunkmeyer signing. But he is officially signed, and Virginia Tech's got the guy that they went out and sought. This was the top guy in the portal. I mean, Bro Pabula, whatever other name, this was the guy they wanted, as well to pair with Bryce Baker. Those were the two guys when the portal opened. So it's just much like the James Franklin hire. Who did Virginia Tech want to hire? They had really one candidate at the top, and they got him. So I think they did an incredible job targeting and getting the guys that they wanted. Amari Smith. Amari, appreciate all the comments. Always being here in the live chat. There's quite a few viewers who are always here live with me. It means a ton. Thank you guys. Tyseer Denmark coming too. And what about the right guard from Maryland? Right guard, if you're talking about Alou Ba, yeah, that could certainly be a name to watch. I mean, there's going to be other programs in the mix, but that could be one to watch. Going to have to circle back on that one. Tyseer Denmark, feel pretty good about. On the Monday show, highlighted him pretty big as with those names to watch. And it was a little questionable with if he was going to have a number, but especially with the departure of Isaiah Spencer, I fully would expect. And, like I said, we go deeper in the Q&A, might pop in a little crystal ball for him and potentially Justin Terry too, along the offensive line. Ooh, good question here from Ryan Kane. Who out of the 2025 class are you excited to see this spring that didn't get much playing time last year? I'd love to see Brett Clatterbaugh get some playing time, hoping DE end is clicking for him. Ryan, that's really interesting, especially the last part of that, because I believe, as we touched on just a little bit on the last show, that Brett Clatterbaugh actually is relisted as linebacker on the Virginia Tech Hokie Sports roster. Is that just a clerical error or clerical change? I'm not sure, but could he be moving back to linebacker, potentially in that star position in Brent Pry's defense? Or they move him back inside at Mike, where he's sort of mostly played at Culpeper in high school? I mean, he was a wrestler background, just an overall athlete. So there was just, the way Virginia Tech had recruiting the linebacker position under Brent Pry and Chris Marv had left quite a bit to be desired. So, where you bring in Noah Chambers, and Noah Chambers popped as a freshman at the linebacker position. Brett Clatterbaugh could be one. Pulling up the 2025 depth chart now. Let me double check. That didn't get much playing time. So, obviously, easy answer would be Jeff Overton, but he saw some run down the stretch. I think Jeff Overton is definitely one to highlight. I think Snook Peterkin, depending on how the wide receiver shakes out, if he gets some mass on, could be one. Jamari DeLoach at corner, Knowledge Harrell at corner, both those guys. Been super high on them. Sheldon Robinson back at safety. They haven't brought in anyone back in that safety room, so you're really kind of rocking with Sheldon, Quentin Reddish, Tyson Flowers, Brennan Johnson, potentially Sherrod Koval. So I could see him getting quite a bit of burn. I know he did late there down the stretch. Christian Evans has added a ton of mass, probably close up to 300 pounds. That interior defensive line, they brought in a ton of guys, but they're still pretty young there, so he can make a move. And I think that would be most of those guys that I would keep an eye on in the 2025 class. Now I just rattled off a couple names, but those are the ones to watch. Pat Thompson, early enrollees to watch. Yeah, good one. I think now to watch early or just to watch in general, because I think the quarterback position is always going to jump to the top. I mean, I've actually never seen Troy Yoon throw live. So seeing him throw live, seeing how he adjusts there early, getting on campus, I think the quarterback is really big. Seeing how the offensive line develop early on for the early enrollees, I think Amari Polidor from St. Francis should be. That'd be one to see if he could factor in that DB room. Terry Wiggins getting on campus early. He's weighed in pretty light at the Navy All-American Bowl. I think seeing his progression through the fall, spring, winter, summer, and fall camps as he develops and puts on weight in the college regimen, I think that's going to be interesting to see how he develops, as well with a Fat Rat Brown, but I think he's Trinity Episcopal, so I don't know if he can early enroll. Pierce Peterson, some of these other guys, that'll be interesting to see once they get on campus. Matthew Lamar, I think he could be a really, really nice linebacker, someone who has a frame already built for it. Ryan Kane, this is a good question. When do winter workouts for the team? So the first day of class is next Tuesday. Let me double check the date. First day of class is next Tuesday, January 20th. So it sounds like typically you're going to have that first week off, and then they'll start things up that second week for winter workouts when they'll get going. DFA saying Kolby must have Horizon. Hopefully the stream is coming through crystal clear. Not another situation like we've had before in the past. You got Ryan Kane. Phone's blowing up. Will James Franklin have some success with future Pennsylvania recruiting, or will that all depend on on-field results and money? A lot of recruiting now depends on on-field results and also money, but he's got very deep inroads in Pennsylvania. I don't see that going away just because he's wearing a VT on his chest, as you saw in the signing class and what he's been able to do across multiple stops in the Mid-Atlantic. When he was at Maryland, when he was at Vanderbilt, him still pretty well having those great ties in Pennsylvania. It doesn't really change, even if you're not the coach of the Nittany Lions. I could fully expect him to still have some pretty deep inroads there in Pennsylvania. Ryan Kane, what feedback have you heard from Virginia high school coaches on the James Franklin hire and how he has filled out the staff so far? So feedback from coaches on Franklin has been positive. I think he's done, what Pride did to try and rebuild some of the connections and pipelines after Justin Fuente departed Virginia Tech. He laid a lot of foundation for it. He just wasn't able to really take it over that hump. And Franklin certainly has excited fan bases. Him at Penn State, he's been in a ton of these high schools for years. Oscar Smith, Maury, wherever it is, he's very familiar with a lot of these coaches already. Super relational guy. I heard from coaches, if you need something, reach out. He's very quick to get back. And for the second part of that question, how he's filled out the staff so far, I think it's been amazing. I think there's some other questions in here we'll get to. Bill Davis, Louisiana transfer running back, should have him on the show hopefully tomorrow. Talk about, I think, one of the most underrated hires, Norval McKenzie at running back. And talking to different people, I think that's an absolute home run hire. Sean Spencer along the defensive line, another home run hire. Anthony Midget coaching the corners, talking to other people. I think that he's really built out an elite staff. Now, there's certainly some question marks. Like, I don't want to acquit Ty Howe. It's his first real time. Like, yes, he's called plays. It's his first real time for a full 12, 13 game season calling plays. That's a big leap. Now, his ability to coach tight ends is arguably, maybe not even arguably, the best tight ends coach in the country. Brent Pry, say what you will about his head coaching chops and what he was able to do at Virginia Tech. I point to that 2022 season when you look at the roster and how bare the cupboard was, and he coached them to a 45th ranked total defense. I think that's a pretty impressive job just a couple of years ago, and he's increased the personnel and the defensive staff around him. So I think that's got to give you confidence. I think he's done a really nice job of building out this initial staff. And I know the other side of that is people are like, well, look at all this money he didn't go out and spend. And I'll push back and say, that, it's not just speculation. A lot of the feeling is real about going out and spending on Kotelnicki, going out and spending on Knowles, and those guys essentially costing you the job or part of it, and feeling like you're not going with guys that you trust and having to go make the splash higher and going away from the bread and butter success. So I think it's right in his wheelhouse. I think he feels comfortable with the guys he's brought on staff, and early returns from recruits, players, it's been overwhelmingly positive. Justin saying, any more O linemen coming? I would watch Justin Terry, and I would not be surprised to see a surprise one come out, or tune into the show tomorrow night. Going to be trying to catch up from everything. It's been a busy week, but Justin Terry is certainly one offensive lineman to watch, and I would not be surprised to see them bring in another one. Got sideline shenanigans. Thank you for always tuning in. Can you maybe predict the starting offensive line for next year? Great show. All right, well, that's taken on quite an undertaking, and I think it's going to change quite a bit through spring. It's January 14th. No one's even on campus yet. They don't even know exactly what the room's going to look like, but let's try it. At left tackle, let's go with Logan Howland from Oklahoma. Let's pull up the roster for some backup. We'll go Logan Howland from Oklahoma at left tackle, and we'll put Johnny Garrett at right tackle. I guess Aiden Lynch is going to be that backup swing tackle. But I mean, he could realistically play himself. I think he could play himself into some time. But as of right now, let's go Logan Howland, left tackle, Kyle Altuner at center, right tackle, Johnny Garrett, left guard, Lath Gannum. I guess if he Lath Gannum or Brody Meadows, does he get in that mix? Does one of those new guys come in? Let's go Lath Gannum, and at the other side, Montavious Cunningham or Brody Meadows. I think one of those guys. I know those familiar names from a year ago, but you're just as of right now, I feel like that'd be the safest bet. Howland, Gannum, Altuner, Cunningham, Garrett. We'll see how it shakes out. Probably quite a bit of changes. We'll probably revisit this and that'd be rather wrong, but we'll see. Got Jackson Woody 8089 in here. Appreciate the comment. Would Shamarius Snook Peterkin still be able to play on the basketball team under James Franklin? Have you heard his stance on multi-sport guys? I would fully expect Snook to still be able to play basketball. I remember it was sometime in fall when we were walking through Merriman back from interviews. I saw him and actually Micah Matthews walking out, so two of the dual sport guys. And I asked him, I was like, you still playing the hoop this year? He said, yeah, for sure. So I think he would still have that agreement, and we'll see how it goes. I don't think he's seen any minute share yet on the basketball team this year, but I think he would still have that option under Franklin if he wanted to. Now, I know a lot of people have the stance of firmly no dual sport guys, lock in. I know he's a little bit smaller on the smaller side, so staying away from winter workouts and staying with the basketball team might hold him back a little bit, but that'll be something we'll have to watch how it plays out. Godfrey, appreciate you, man. Thank you. Godfrey talking about how much competition do you expect between Grunk and Baker? I mean, I highlighted it last night, and nothing is coming in guaranteed. I mean, you go on social media, the boards, and pretty clearly, look, Ethan Grunkmeyer, a year older than Baker, has shown more on the field to this point, but no one is coming in guaranteed anything. Doesn't matter what was your NIL contract. Doesn't matter what you had last year under Pry. It's going in with a pretty clean slate, and I think that's how you incite a culture of competition and pushing towards just constant improvement. When you look at all the best programs, that's what's being promoted. So I think it's going to be a ton of competition that nothing is going to be guaranteed in the spring. And I almost guarantee you O'Brien and Franklin and no one is going to come out and say he's won the job here early. Like, it's probably going to go into fall camp because that's how you push young players to get better. Without a doubt, if you just rest on your laurels, you take a throw off, you take a rep off. I think it's going to be a ton of competition going rep for rep all throughout winter, spring, summer, and into the fall camp. I would obviously give the slight edge to Grunk just with his playing experience, but I would also go back into saying, look at what the packages they ran with Perbula when Drew Aller was the guy. Bryce Baker, a little bit more mobile than Grunkemeyer. You want to develop that guy because he obviously hasn't seen any college football yet behind Grunkemeyer, and he's only seen limited reps. So you need to continue to build playable depth. Those early games, VMI, I know it's Old Dominion, what's happened in the past, but you want to be able to build some just experience for these players early. So I think it's going to be a ton of competition. Zachary Herman 986. The Grunk saga was sort of fun from my perspective. Are you relieved or sad that it's over? I don't feel like I was ever really tight about it. I wouldn't say I'm sad that it's over. I just feel bad I wasn't able to get back to the multitude of people that were reaching out to me every day asking for an update. I mean, I dropped the update last night. It was rather comical to see the reactions over on vtscoop.com, running 50% off promo if you want to go join the best online community out there. But I wouldn't say I'm sad that it's over. I think it was just funny to see the unrest that it caused when, and I said last night, hand up, I missed a ton. I'm going to miss 1,000 times more. But I felt very confident in me coming on here and saying what was happening with Ethan Grunkmeyer. And that's never going to put anyone's worries to bed. And we've all seen crazy things. You'll see something new in college football every single day. But I never felt like it wavered, and I feel pretty confident it didn't. So looking forward to hopefully getting some clarity and potentially an interview here on the show to talk about how that all went down. Ryan Kane talking about, will we see a 2-quarterback system similar to 2007 and 2008? I hope our offensive line is better than those teams at Pass Pro. Would that be, kind of going beyond my depth here, would that be Taylor and Glennon those years? I think that's what you're referencing. 07 and 08. Yeah, Glennon and Taylor. Okay. All right. Yeah, we got that. I don't think it's going to be to that effect. Like I said, I would still give Ethan Grunkmeyer probably the inside track right now on January 14th, and I fully expect that. But I think you will see a very conscious effort to get Bryce Baker in the game, as they've shown in the past when they've had multiple quarterbacks. That's not to say that they're going to have one guy, one snap out. I think it's hard to get guys in rhythm there, but you're certainly going to give opportunities and different looks to defenses. So I don't think it's going to be to that effect at all, but I would expect to see Bryce Baker compete and get some action there, especially early. Ron Judy talking about Woolsey was graded as the second highest defender against Clemson in the bowl game behind Wiley. Obviously, Keon Wiley, the linebacker Virginia Tech got. I know that linebacker position and safety position are probably still two that I think could be a little thin for Virginia Tech going into the season. We've been drinking from the fire hose that is a transfer portal, but when we sit down ahead of the fall and look at the roster, I think those are two spots they might be lacking just a little bit, especially linebacker, because I'm not sure exactly where else they're going to go there, especially here with some remaining targets. I mean, I think Wiley's a great player, has played rotationally, but you could slot him in to start alongside of Noah Chambers, Caleb Spencer, kick out to star, some of these other names. But I think Woolsey and Wiley, they've been reserve players, and I think they're ready to definitely step up their role this year. Got VT15 Hokies. I know you dropped this a little bit ago, and we've touched on it, but still expect Justin Terry to end up at Virginia Tech. Kane, appreciate another comment. Slot wide receiver depth workout between Queso Brown, Tyseer Denmark, and Takai Heath. I would fully expect Brown to be in that top in the ones running out of the slot, and then Heath probably with the experience in Denmark competing right there. Obviously Denmark not officially in the class, but expecting that one. Might throw a crystal ball here right at the end of the show, but would expect Brown to dominate the snap share in the slot. Brandon talking about excited to watch Queso Brown. Yeah, very exciting player. Talked to some friends down there at Duke, and watching back some different film and people who watched him in high school there at Kernsville or East Forsyth. Yeah, very dynamic player, very sure-handed for his size. You cut on the film, very sure-handed. He took some licks at his size if he really is a true 165. And great route tree. I feel like he's great out of the break, does a lot of things, especially in the return game. So he's a gadget. I think that was a really big pickup. I got Mike. So Bill Davis tomorrow night. I don't know if he's coming on live tomorrow night, but we should have an interview here relatively soon. He's actually flying to Blacksburg currently. Got his flight delayed again. So should have him on the show here relatively soon. Excited about that one to just show him off to the fan base because he's been really, really awesome. Quentin Gunn, is Virginia Tech done at offensive line? Seems a bit underwhelming. I think I honestly feel like that might be a fair assessment. I don't think they're done. Like I said, you're adding Justin Terry, but again, that's maybe not the splash guy that you're expecting, like another Logan Howland. I think they could go out and still get one more guy on top of Terry, trying to back channel and search for some names. But I mean, you're rolling with a lot of the guys that you did this year, and you're just kind of hoping another year simmering with Matt Moore and the strength and conditioning staff that they take the next step, or someone emerges from the portal, one of those younger guys, or even does an early enrollee step up. I know Ben Azuka, I think he could probably be one that's the closest to see maybe slot into guard and force someone out. And that'll be something to watch. Brandon Singh saying Virginia Tech's offensive line can't be any worse than last year. I don't expect it to be. I think they've rapidly increased the talent level of the room without a doubt. But I mean, those pieces, as Orange and Maroon would say, those players are going to have to shake themselves out heading into the spring, and that's why I'm really excited to cover this spring, because the competition, I feel like it's been echoed a ton, and sometimes it comes off, and you hear it from every staff every year, and sometimes it's just said, and I feel like it, especially in Blacksburg, it was just said there for a little while, where it's just competition, but a lot of people kind of knew their standing, and I think genuinely right now. I mean, you can have an idea of things, but everything is on the table. New staff, a whole new roster, nothing is guaranteed. And it looks like, the dead period's going on, but James Franklin and Fontel Mines just went in home with 2026 recruit Xavion Cleveland. In that picture, you can see Quavon Cleveland, I believe is his brother, 2028 edge rusher, had an incredible year at Green Run. If you want to know a prospect to keep an eye on, saw him live over the summer. It was 7-on-7, so he wasn't really able to show off his full abilities. But you want to talk about someone to definitely keep an eye on. He had a pick in the playoff game, I believe, against was it Indian River? But his brother Quavon Cleveland, quite an athlete, as well as Zay Cleveland. I'm not sure if he's early enrolling. He might be hooping for Green Run. One of the most freaky athletes that I've seen, both coverage-wise. I mean, there's people that think seeing him at 6'3", I think listed close to 190, probably a little bit lighter than that. I know I've gone off on a complete tangent, but a little bit lighter than that. They're like, oh, a 6'3" safety, can he really move like that? I mean, the most fluid hips and coverage that I've seen he's played wide receiver for Green Run as well, but definitely projects at corner. I don't see them moving him back to safety. Rangy, long, and has great hips. Transfer from Lansdowne to Green Run. I think that's a really big pickup. And if you remember down the stretch, got murky with West Virginia, one they wanted to keep bad, and they were able to. So yeah, there's a note on Zay Cleveland just here an hour into the show. Azah, the edge, Peth, 95-45. I saw UVA making some moves in the transfer portal. How do you think they stack up? Yeah, I mean, UVA obviously has quite a war chest they've been able to spend. I think they've done well at the quarterback position with Eli Holstein and Bo Perbula. Chandler Morris was great, but I think that provides two guys who have seen quite a bit of college football. Both those guys are veteran. As well, they brought in Brennan Hillman from Michigan, the former Virginia recruit, blue chip guy. I know I think Bjorn Jurgensen, the quarterback, just transferred out. They've brought in some offensive linemen. So I think they've done some nice moves. Would I expect – would they finish with 11 wins this year, I think? There's a program history. They had an incredible season. I'm not sure they could emulate that success, but I don't think it's going to be as steep of a drop-off. Now, they had a very favorable ACC schedule, but you lose a pretty dynamic quarterback. You lose a ton of guys along the offensive line, a ton of guys along the defensive line. I think they're going to have to backfill quite a bit of production. Chris Henderson talking about knowing Terry being a possibility, but I could certainly see one more offensive lineman being added for sure. Steamer 24.99. Are you going to have Grunk on one of your future shows? Hopefully. Everyone's busy right here, but when things settle down a little bit in the semester, would hope to have Grunkemeyer. I'm going to have a ton of interviews lined up this spring. I know we've given a little taste, had Jeff on. If you want to go check that out on the channel, if you want to go check out under the playlist tab, Kolby's Corner Conversations, did some pretty long form sit downs with Isaiah Brown Murray, Chance Wiggins, Brody Adams, and Tyson Flowers. All four of those guys are coming back. So if you want to go catch up and see a little bit behind the scenes, really proud of that production. We're going to have way more of those. Going to have one with Josh Clark, some other guys. Don't want to give too much away, but when we get back to school, so a little inside peek at a ton of the players. So make sure to go check those out. And yeah, hopefully we'll have one with him. Denzel Jones, appreciate the question. This is a good one. What's up, Kolby? I know a lot of people are most excited about the new players because who wouldn't? Nice and flashy. But who are you looking to make the most improvement under the legit coaching upgrades? I think it's a really great question. It's a really great question. To see take the next step improvement. So with the new coaches, I guess it couldn't be wide receiver or offensive line because I guess it's older coaches. And I mean, I guess I could see development from those guys, but it's kind of a cop out. Running back, Jeff Overton, does he take the next step with Norville McKenzie along the defensive line? Does Copeland really elevate into that first team all ACC type player? Can he mold one of those edge rushers in Javian Hilson or Cameron Morgan? Do they? Well, I guess those are new players as well. Does Christian Evans take the next step on the inside? The new coaching. Oh, the cornerback position, especially under Anthony Midget. Does Josh Clark, some of those younger guys, Jamari Deloach, Knowledge Harrell, Thomas Williams even, do they take that step? Isaiah Brown Murray on the inside. Yeah, I think Anthony Midget at the cornerback position, some of those guys seeing their development. Yeah, that was a good question. I know I kind of went all over the place. Chris Henderson, 5583. Do you know if Grunk had any other suitors? Tennessee and Miami seem to have struck out on their cornerback candidates so far. From my end, it does not sound like there was any wavering or anyone else got in the mix or muddy the waters in the Ethan Grunkmeyer saga. Sounds like it was pretty clear once Penn State was going with Rocco Becht and Virginia Tech decided to make a move on Grunkmeyer over Bo Fabula, and that got echoed. It was pretty clear from the start on where Virginia Tech was going to go, and no one else really got involved, it sounds like. Joseph Kennedy, how heavily did we pursue the Elon quarterback? Talking about Landon Clark, who landed at LSU. Figured there would have been some ties with the Chris connection. Landon Clark, right down the road from Radford, has landed at LSU. And LSU today, wow, what a job Lane Kiffin has done in retooling the LSU quarterback room. The number one transfer quarterback, Sam Levitt from Arizona State. You also bring in Hassan Longstreet, was a true freshman, five-star guy that transferred from USC. And then you have Landon Clark, who, by the way, was CAA Offensive Rookie of the Year. And what Lane Kiffin's been able to do developing the quarterback position to get all those guys, I think it's really big. Now, I think Landon Clark has seen some college football. Virginia Tech did not heavily pursue. He took visits to Kentucky, LSU, and I believe only James Madison, North Texas, and Michigan State were semi in the mix, but I believe he only actually visited Kentucky, JMU, and LSU. Virginia Tech never really heavily got involved. Hokie Chaz, any more ghosts tonight? Hopefully not. Who knows? We got an odd lighting setup. D Robbins, other than the 5K Hokie run, have you seen any other activities posted for the day of the spring game? I think softball is playing Georgia Tech. There's a baseball series in town, and they always had the Hokie Fest Village. It's family weekend, so I know they'll have some connected events. I'm not exactly sure if they've released any of those, but I'm sure there will be attached promotionals as they get closer to that with parking and such. Jackson Woody, 8089. Know the staff has great relationships with 757, 804, and Northern Virginia schools. Who on the staff do you think is best equipped to recruit talent from the 540 and greater Southwest Virginia area? Probably maybe. Probably potentially, yeah, especially being a coordinator. Coordinators, it's a lot harder for coordinators to get out on the road these days, just with how the calendar shapes up, and it's made it really difficult. So, like, coordinators don't really get out on the road as much, and especially James Franklin. He's a head coach who gets out and gets after it. So probably, just staying a little bit closer to campus, I could see that. Danny O'Brien, more down in North Carolina. Ty Howe, got the DMV, DC area. Mines, 804, 757. Matt Moore. I mean, I could see Matt Moore down in that region, 540 into West Virginia. I could certainly see that. Sean Spencer, more Florida, Texas. I mean, anywhere, DC, Florida, wherever. Linebacker, Pry. Yeah, I could see Pry certainly. Anthony Midget, potentially. Yeah, and whoever the safeties coach is. So that me just kind of talking out loud, but yeah, I could see that. Got sideline shenanigans listing his but projected offensive line at this point. Left tackle, Logan Howland. Right tackle, Johnny Garrett. Center, Kyle Altuner. I think that's a pretty safe bet. Those three. Left guard, Laith Ganem. Right guard, Montavious Cunningham. Yeah, I think that's kind of the boat I was in. So I think that's kind of where I stood here on January 14th. Brandon, will there be a post-portal press conference with the coaches? I would anticipate so, but at this point, none of that has been relayed yet. As soon as we hear about that, if you subscribe, this will be the first place you'll see it. So make sure to stay tuned. But I have not heard anything about that, but would not be shocked. They've done that before. Got Gaber Aussie 4744. Do you agree with the notion that NIL has balanced out the field? The process is messy, but the results are great, in my opinion. The process is certainly messy. I think NIL has brought a lot more parity to the sport, but it's also it's added more parity. I wouldn't say it's balanced out the field. I just think it's brought more parity, has brought more different players to the forefront. Indiana, Texas Tech, and these other schools, but it's also added a whole different grimy layer on top of things. And I'm in the camp of Doug Bowman and others that there's going to have to be some real radical change that's going to happen, and you can only put so many Band-Aids on a bullet hole. You only have 10 fingers for 11 holes, and you kind of just got to start taking big hacks at it, because if you just keep trying and bootstrap it along, it's just going to fall apart. K-Hawk 2112. How many wins do you think Virginia Tech can get next season? Vegas, pretty good at projecting lines. They have it set at 7.5 at most books. And I would say 8 to 9 in that range. How many do you think Virginia Tech can get next season? I mean, there's a path where James Franklin's won 10 games for multiple seasons in a row. Like, I think you can, like, Virginia Tech could get 10, 11 wins. Where do I project them? I'd probably project them here on January, probably closer to that 8, maybe 9, probably closer to that 8-win range. I mean, the ACC has had an uptick. Miami's in the championship game. They get Miami on the road again next year. You get Clemson in Death Valley. You got some pretty quality opponents, but they've rapidly increased the roster, and you see how it compares across the ACC. So I would expect a massive improvement from 3 wins, and it's not a day and age where you can take a multiple-year rebuild. It has to happen pretty instantly, and I think they've set themselves up to do that. Got Trevin W. 1988. Jordan Bass, you think he starts over Quentin Reddish? No, I do not think Jordan Bass starts over Quentin Reddish. I think Quentin Reddish is probably the most talented and experienced safety in that safety room. I think Jordan Bass is a very talented athlete, but he's still learning the safety position. And he made quite a few strides down the stretch, but he also got a little banged up. So I think Bass, I mean, when you look at his tape from Phoebus at wide receiver, and he tried to move to wide receiver even a cycle ago. I think he'll probably stick at safety and get a ton of snaps, but I would expect Quentin Reddish to start at safety for Virginia Tech. But he also needs to get back healthy, dealt with the shoulder issue this year. Chris Grella, over under on how many when will Grunk sign post tonight. Man, he's glad that's over. Yep. An error for sure, one I won't forget. Trevin, who do you think will be the starting receivers? I said Aiden Green, Keyshawn Brown, and Brody Adams as of this point. Mike, how long do you think it will be for structured rules with NIL? Well, allegedly there's structured rules right now, so we'll see. But I don't know. Resolution on that is so murky. You got the College Sports Commission, and it's just a mess. I mean, because Congress gets involved and fixes everything, right? But there's just no really other steps, and until conference commissioners and school presidents really come to the table and want to make real radical change, I don't think you're going to see much real movement on that. Sideline shenanigans. Also wanted to ask about other offensive linemen. Do you think Justin Bell, the Michigan State transfer, could find his way on the field soon? Is he a guy that could factor into the guard depth if the tackle spot isn't open? He probably could. He's added quite a bit of mass from what I've heard. And I know I think he was kicked out to tackle at Michigan State, but he can move inside. I think we'll get a much clearer picture on that as we move through spring. Patrick Thompson, who do you have in the national championship game, Miami or Indiana? I'm rolling with Indiana. I think Fernando Mendoza will be the number 1 overall pick, Heisman, and very rarely do you see someone win the Heisman and play his best ball after winning the award. And he's played, I think, by far his best ball after winning the award when you look at what Mike Shanahan's been able to do coaching that offense, defensive coordinator, probably going to win the Broyles Award. Black, their running back, Black. He went to Salem High School, was a 2-star recruit, Salem in Virginia Beach, excuse me. I mean, they're so fundamentally sound. I remember talking to D'Angelo Pons. in that transfer cycle. I guess it was almost 2023, right when I was sort of getting into all this. And it was when Sig was going from JMU to Indiana, and Virginia Tech was trying to get heavily in the mix, and he committed to Indiana. And seeing him, the pick 6 against Oregon, I mean, they're just so fundamentally sound. I think Indiana wins. I don't know if it's going to be particularly close. I would take him by 10 plus. Just so fundamentally sound. The continuity on the coaching staff. I mean, having a game changer at quarterback, playmakers on the outside, seeing him live at Penn State, like Amir Cooper. I mean, what they've been able to recruit, scout, and develop. And now that they've got more funds behind them and they have the on-field success, so now they don't even have to out-scout more underdeveloped guys and go out and get some more 4- and 5-star players. It's really impressive, and I think Indiana rolls. Trevin talking about for the wide receivers, he's Aiden Green, Sean Brown, and Takai Heath. Brown and Heath combined weight is probably just barely over 300 pounds. So I think they'll probably have one more guy on the wide receiver because, I mean, those are 2 more slot weapons. But, I mean, I guess they both could work their way in. And I'm not willing to talk on that front either. Andrew saying excited to see what Franklin does with the 27 class. Yep. Right after this, I mean, it's a full round calendar here on Kolby's Corner because right after the transfer portal, you get a little dead period, winter workouts, and then you're into hosting junior days. And we'll have the latest visits and all that going on in the 27 class. Leighton Von Brandt, there was an article up on VT Scoop today, top 100 offensive tackle, talking about Virginia Tech, and obviously committed to Penn State in the past and how much James Franklin means to him. So they've been working really hard there as well. Joseph Kennedy, do you see Bass getting moved down to linebacker now at the time to put on weight? No, I think he stays at safety. I don't see him moving back to linebacker. Caps fan 1, which incoming freshmen do you think are most likely to see the field this fall now that we have a better idea of the roster? Incoming freshmen, I think a lot of the incoming freshmen are probably going to sit. I don't know if there's a ton of impact for freshmen. Does Ben Azuka hit it off and find his way on the offensive line? I think that's one. Does T-Ron Richardson find his way on the defensive line? I think he could do that potentially. Amari Polidor at cornerback. There's quite a few guys ahead of him, though. I think those would be the biggest ones to watch. Maybe Zay Cleveland at corner as well. I think those would be the only real ones to watch. Maybe Messiah Mickens at running back, depending on how that room shapes up. But, I mean, Bill Davis, Jeff Overton, Marcellus Hawkins, it's a pretty strong trio right there. Joseph Kennedy, assuming Benji and Harrison St. Germain stay, who are your top 3 tight ends. Benji Gosnell is also returning to Virginia Tech. Reported that on the show as well. So top 3 tight ends, Benji Gosnell, Luke Reynolds, Jarikus Harrison. Those would be the top 3 going into the year, with Matt Henderson probably just off there at 4th. And I think he'll probably get some run as well. But I think the top 3, certainly Benji, Luke, and Jarikus Harrison, all in that mix right there. Jonah Middleton, when can we get Kolby's Corner on streaming platforms, Apple, Spotify? It is currently on the streaming channels. And like I said, it's been a ton. And thank you guys so much because you have made it, the show relatively successful here so early, just with all the support. It's been like drinking from a fire hose. So right now you can find it on the Inside the Tunnel podcast YouTube channel, working on setting up its own feed for that. So when we get that, I will make sure to tap everyone to go follow that. But as for right now, if you want to follow the podcast as well, that is over on the Inside the Tunnel Spotify, YouTube, Spotify feed, Apple feed, anywhere you get your podcast. Marsh Creek 4355. VT has gotten better, but so has everyone else in the conference. It's a tough schedule with Maryland away. Like Vegas, I'd say 7 wins. I could certainly see that without a doubt. Pat Thompson, AJ Brand, see him moving to running back or defensive side of the ball. Coming out of high school, like I said on the anecdote last night, South Carolina really wanted them to move back there to safety. As of late, have heard more about him potentially moving to the running back room. So that's kind of where it stands. We'll definitely get a clearer picture on that in winter and into spring. Johnny Boy, who do you think will play the star position? That's interesting. Does Caleb Spencer kick back over to star? Does Gabe Williams get back healthy and rolling out there, because I think he could fit in the star position. I think probably fit in the star potentially. I think those were a couple names to watch just off the top of my head. Sideline shenanigans. Thoughts on Michael Troutman? Is he a center or guard? I guess most of those guys play both. I'm a former center, and I love that position compared to guard. Yeah, Michael Troutman, he was actually roommates with Jeff Exner Jr. at Penn State, so they have a great relationship. Trying to get him on the show, so hopefully we get him on the show here soon, and we can talk about that. I think he would be a nice backup to develop behind Kyle Altuner, but it sounds like he has worked some at guard, but I would say mostly center at this time. But positional need. Higgins, any updates on Gosnell? Gosnell will return, as well will Takai Heath. Both will be returning. All right, I think that pretty much does it. Went a good 70 minutes here tonight. It's pretty crazy with how crazy the day was. Just wrote some words on a piece of paper, and we're able to go 70 minutes. And that's all because you guys commenting, subscribing, liking, and supporting me. And that I never want to just give that its right appreciation. So thank you guys, because it truly does mean the world. Entering some crazy times personally, professionally, and this is proof of concept. So it means the world. And thank you guys. So we'll have one more live show this week, tomorrow night at 7:30. And then we'll be back from the fine town of Blacksburg, Virginia, with another live show, probably kicking off at 7:30. So one more tomorrow night, and we'll see what news pops up between now and then. But until then, subscribe to the show, like the video, spend some quality time with people around you. Call someone you haven't talked to in a little while. Tell them, say what's up. And we'll be right back tomorrow night at 7:30 with more updates. Till then, peace out. God bless.